the motion man. Little flip to Fitzgerald. He scores! And the Cardinals win an amazing game.
Mikhail Bucker with a chance. He walks in. He scores! Mikhail Bucker for the second straight game is the hero.
Hello, Sporty Nation. Welcome back. Season 2, episode numero tres for the Spanish people out there in the Sporty Nation. Happy to be back. Took a week off last week, but we're back this week. Plenty to talk about. And you probably saw that we started the show with a picture of Gritty, the Flyers mascot. We're going to get to him momentarily. Also coming up, we're going to get to the Dbacks into their season and what we see ahead for the offseason. But Corey, welcome back. Happy to be with you once again.
Happy to be with you as well. And happy National Coffee Day. This is my second one of the day, and I'm still kind of actually drooping, so that's actually kind of sad.
What did you pick?
That's what technically it's like. I don't know what they call it. It's the non-fat version of them, like of the caramel macchiato. I don't know what they call that again. I forget what they call that.
A non-fat caramel macchiato. Yeah.
But yeah, they call it something else. It's like there's a fancy basic word for it. And I don't ever remember what it is.
Surprised you didn't go with the pumpkin spice latte.
Yeah, so I actually bought pumpkin spice latte like from the grocery store, the little, and I wasn't that impressed. Like I mean, I'm sure the actual latte, I've tried it once a while back, and it was good when I tried it there. So I'm sure when I go and like buy it, it's gonna be better. But like I always do the caramel macchiato, and then I mean, if I'm going to for those of you that don't know, Richie and I used to cover a lot of ACHA hockey games, and my boyfriend who's over there used to play on ASU's ACHA team. But they, when I went to those, it would somehow magically have some Baileys in it to try and keep me warm because Oceanside is the coldest place on the face of the planet.
That's 100% true. You did offer me if I wanted anything from Starbucks today, and I said no. Because I've been on a non-coffee diet for the last couple of weeks because let's just say that coffee and my body do not mix very well. You can
Sporty Nation, you can insinuate into that one what you wish.
You can put two and two together there to figure out why. But yeah, happy National Coffee Day, everybody. Yesterday was National Beer Day, which is my type of holiday. And here's the thing. On Friday, National Beer Day, I did not drink any beer yesterday because I don't have any at home. For some weird reason, so I only have whiskey in the house.
That's okay. We celebrated International Beer Day. And technically we are today is the 29th, so we're only like 2 days away from October, which is like Oktoberfest everywhere.
They can really drink a lot.
There you go. And I mean, like, I'm not a big beer person, but I am German, and I really feel like during October I need to celebrate, so I do drink beer during
October. Nice pumpkin porter, a nice Oktoberfest. I agree. So one more thing before we get to Gritty. Before the show, and on the Freaks, we like to use a term called, we like to pull the curtain back, and we like to open ourselves up to the listeners. I'm going to do the same thing again today. So on Thursday night, I went out with some friends of mine to dinner at Oregano's. This happened to be during the Rams and Vikings game. So I was watching. There was no TVs at Oregano's on Thursday night, so I wasn't able to watch the game there. So I felt like a jackass because I was watching a freaking football game on my phone when I was supposed to be enjoying company with my friends, who I don't usually get to see all that often. So in order to celebrate the Rams winning, I got what I like to call, or what Oregano's calls a pizza cookie, but I like to call it a pizookie. And every single person here, all three of you, and then Bo Brock and Alex Clancy made fun of me for it yesterday on the Freaks, which is I called it a pizookie, and apparently that's not how you pronounce it. Apparently I'm crazy.
Pizookie. I don't know. You asked me and I said pizookie. That's just the way I've always pronounced it. I don't know. Sporty Nation, how do you pronounce it? I don't know if you can phonetically spell it out on like Twitter or anywhere else. Just like let us know which way you pronounce it. I guess you could always go with option 1, which is Richie's way. Say it again, Richie.
Pizookie.
And there's my way, which is option 2, pizookie. I don't know which one is the proper one. I mean,
I'm obviously in the minority here.
I was like, it sounds like Richie's from New York all of a sudden. I mean, maybe that's what it is. I mean, New York has the most authentic pizza. So,
Sure.
Why not? They would know a pizza cookie.
Yes.
There you go.
God, so I'm apparently I'm in the wrong again, Sporty Nation. I apologize, but I'm never going to change.
Maybe you are truly the one that is in the right and we are just all wrong and we're all sheeps and we've just gone with the herd.
Yeah, exactly. I'm different, as you've learned on this show. So let's actually get into some sports now, kind of, but not really. So when we went live, you probably saw the picture of Gritty, the new Flyers mascot, as our little placeholder. That's because we're going to talk about Gritty on the show. We're going to do it right now. But now you and I have completely differing opinions on Gritty, I think. Because now, can you explain the story? You texted me or you Snapchatted me the other day. Explain that story, because that's really where the Gritty conversation started for the two of us.
I'm trying to remember when I Snapchatted you.
This was earlier this week. So it was it was whenever they unveiled Gritty. So it was either Tuesday or Wednesday this week.
Sorry. I've had such a long week. I can't remember I don't know though, but I do know that Gritty haunts my dreams. And I tweeted out about that too right away, that he is literally what nightmares are made of. I swear to you, he is what nightmares are made of. I would love to think of him in a way of like Rick and Morty, where they have like Freddy Krueger, as he's like
Scary Terry.
Scary Terry. Yes, I have a mug that even has Scary Terry on it, and he's like, "You can run, but you can't hide, bitch." I would love to think of him in that sense, but no, it is literally like a Muppet has come to scare me in the middle of the night. That is how creepy it is. I could definitely see this thing being in a scary, creepy version on South Park of Monsters Inc. This is what I would picture. That is so creepy. I don't know what they thought about when they were making that. And I mean, I've heard that the Philly Fanatic, right? They're trying to make it kind of like that. Like his belly kind of moves, stuff like that. As a child, I would not be afraid of the Philly Fanatic. As a child, I would look at this thing and I would go up and kick it in its nuts because I would think that it is coming to eat me.
I completely disagree. I love Gritty. I love mascots in general, so none of them scare me or creep me out. Because there's no difference between Gritty and the Philly Fanatic. Gritty is literally just an orange version of the Philly Fanatic with bigger eyes. And Gritty can skate.
What did I Snapchat you about Gritty?
So you had Snapchatted me of the mascot function in the new NHL 19.
Oh yes, that is right. Yeah, I had that. This is actually really cool. In the new NHL, obviously, that you can do pond hockey now. And
I don't know this because I don't play.
Okay, so they announced it at the awards. So that was their big thing, that they that PK was going to be on the front, and the fact that you were basically going to get to do pond hockey and then work your way up to the NHL, which was kind of something that they did in NBA, but they never because you can do, street basketball and that and work your way up, but you never got to do that in the NHL. So that was something really cool that they did. But one of the things that they added in there, which if I had a bunch of money, I would totally do this in Canada. And I kept on saying this. They have what they call NHL 3s. And it is kind of like, they have now in the NBA, the big three, and they have, all these Metal World Peace, all the, people who've retired that have decided to play in these. It's like street basketball, but they're making it a professional thing. So they kind of have that in there, but you can get mascots and you can play with the mascots as players. I'm not kidding you. I was a little bit dying because in order to do it, you have to beat that team, and they go through the whole Western, and the whole goal was to get to Howler, obviously. So they had to beat Scotty over there was playing it. He had to beat the Coyotes in order to get Howler, obviously, and you have to beat them by so much and all that. So I'm not kidding you though. Watching the bear, I can't remember what the bear's name is. That is the Blues mascot.
Right.
Completely just nail Oliver Ekman-Larsson was probably one of the funniest things that I have ever seen. And I was having so much fun with this, and it was so funny. And then Richie had to ruin it all when I snapped him it. I thought he was going to love it. No, he goes, is Gritty on this? Of course Gritty is not on this. And not to mention, what child wants to play with Gritty as one of their players on the ice? It's cool when you've got Howler and you've got a Bear. And I mean, even the Gila monster from the Knights. But really, Gritty? No.
Yeah, see, now that's my first thought, is I wanted to play as Gritty because I think he's awesome. I really don't understand where the hate is coming from for just a freaking mascot. I think it's a general culture problem in this country where people just want to hate on everything. Like, they just can't embrace a big furry mascot. What's so wrong about embracing a big furry lovable mascot?
I'm staring at a tattoo that a man has gotten. You probably can't see it because I can't turn it far enough. But a man has gotten a tattoo that says Chaos Reigns, and it's got Gritty on it. And it is freaky as hell. It looks like it's staring into my soul right now. Not to mention, like, the first day on the job, he fell on his ass. Like, that was what he did the first day. So he spun around, right, and did the whole eye thing, which was creepy enough as it was. And then the next video is of him falling on his ass. And then the one after that is him dumping a bunch of popcorn on people. And nope. I don't want him to come up to me. I don't want my children. I don't have any children, but my hypothetical children to be around this mascot. It creeps me the hell out.
That's what I'm like curious about is if kids are enjoying Gritty. I haven't seen very many people on Twitter telling us if they're kids when they first see Gritty.
Okay, with the exception of our friend Kat.
Yes.
Izzy is a badass kid, and the stuff that she finds acceptable is very badass for her age. So I don't consider her to be counted in this. But I think the average kid would be terrified. Absolutely terrified.
By the way, did you know I was listening to a podcast earlier this week, Puck Soup, one of my favorite hockey podcasts, and they were talking about Gritty as well. And apparently there is a disease out there for people who are afraid of mascots, and I believe it is called mascophobia or something like that.
I'm not even surprised. It's like clowns. It's a very freaky thing. And then I mean, Spit and Chicklets, who Paul Bissonnette, who is a big figure here, he went on there and was talking about, all of them were talking about it, and they were all, and the funny thing that was mentioned was that it kind of fit with the team, and Sky sitting over there kind of mentioned it too, that as a team, they're kind of a grindy, goony team, and that the mascot really fits well with the team. So I'm saying, if people assume that this mascot fits well with your team, what does that say about your team as a whole? I mean, really. I mean, I'm just going to leave it at that, because I really feel like you could go into many more insulting things off this, but I just feel like that is a creepy thing to have as your... I can understand like creating a jersey and making your jersey not look the greatest and making that kind of a faux pas, but like as an entire front office and graphic designing team, like someone had mentioned, poor guy who had to do the Kim Kardashian like champagne to the glass thing.
No,
you ever see that picture?
I do not.
Oh, so there's one where it was a champagne to the glass on.
Oh
Gritty's
yeah,
butt.
I think that's the picture I was using for our thing. Was that picture? I
probably.
think.
So there was a picture of Gritty doing that, and someone had mentioned, can you imagine being someone who's a graphic designer, goes through school, does all these things, and that's the picture you have to make. You have to make a picture of Gritty looking like Kim Kardashian. I instantly felt bad for whoever this individual is, and I would send you a drink if I knew who you were, because I feel that bad that that was what you had to do with your day. But I mean, I guess there's worse things to be doing. I guess in some way it could be comic relief.
Yeah, exactly. So those of you who don't know, aren't hockey fans as much as we are, the Flyers of the 1970s used to be called the Broad Street Bullies, which is essentially what you were referring to earlier.
Yes.
Are you ready to take a jaunt into Corey's Corner?
Yes, I am very ready to take a jaunt into Corey's Corner, because I'm going to continue with hockey. I know, but we are big hockey people here. And October 6th, everyone, is the Coyotes opening night, and they're going to be unveiling their big, I mean, I've been near it during preseason, and they've got a whole curtain around it, a massive new screen for everyone to be seeing, and it is awesome. It kind of looks to me a little bit like the Avalanche's screen, but it's not as big. I mean, Avalanche, theirs is almost to the point where you could watch on the screen as opposed to even watching the game on the ice. But they're putting out a new screen. It's going to be a new exciting season. I can't wait for it. And so I'm going to dedicate my corner this week to literally telling everyone to go out and watch this team this season. Obviously, your Cardinals are in the crapper. I will say it right now. The Cardinals are in the crapper. I know this isn't new news for you, and I don't think Rosen is going to save them that much. I am sorry, but there's a lot of problems, and amongst them are play calling, and I don't think it's going to get that drastically much better. I'm sorry. But so you are left with either the Suns and the Coyotes. And I say go all in on the Yotes this year. They may not be a playoff team. I don't predict them to be a playoff team, but this team needs the support. They're ever going to get out of Glendale, find another place. They need the fans to come and support this team and show why they want them in the state in the first place and just really show up. I think that they may not be an amazing team this year, but they're going to be a decent team this year. And I think it'll be fun to watch, and I think it'll be a great atmosphere, and the atmosphere just depends on the fans coming out and watching them. I just really think that is something that really needs to be happening with this team, and with everything that they're trying to do with OEL as the new captain, and they're trying to usher in a new age, and while still remembering the old age. I mean, you just got your credentials, and it shows on there the Coyote head and the Kachina. So I think this is a new age. It's going to be really exciting, and I just really want everyone to come out and try and watch your first hockey game if you've never gone before. I know we live in a very hot place, and ice is not really anything we ever think of, but I think it will be surprising for those of you that think you won't enjoy hockey. I mean, it has similarities to a bunch of different sports, especially in the fact of like soccer. So I know there's some very passionate soccer fans here, so give hockey a try. You won't be disappointed, I promise you. And if you are, for whatever reason, you can yell at me, but please go out and watch your Coyotes this season because they need it.
Very well said. I'm going to be out there at the opener, I do believe, if I'm not working. So you can come say hi if you see me wandering around. I don't know. I like talking to the Sporting Nation when they see us at Coyotes games. By the way, I'm watching the comment section on our live feed here, and there is no Starbucks giveaway. Somebody named Escate on the live stream is saying that we don't. We're poor people. We can't freaking afford to give away Starbucks gift cards, for goodness sakes. And if it was a coffee gift card, it would be freaking Dutch Bros, of course.
See, that's going to be another thing that we're not going to agree on. If I'm getting my coffee, it's normally because I need caffeine. And if I don't have caffeine, I don't want to be talking to you before I get my caffeine. Does that make sense? I'll be pleasant. I'm a very pleasant person, yeah. and I very much like appreciate that about myself. You know, like that I'm a very cheery, pleasant person. I always try and be very nice. But if at that point when I'm tired is the only point when I ever really get grouchy. So if I'm tired, I want my pleasantries to be kept to a minimum. Just saying.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. So let's move on to the Diamondbacks. Unfortunately, we have to talk about them. I don't really want to talk about them. It's too damn depressing. They're 81-79 right now, as of Saturday. So they're at least going to be 500 this year. But the September in the last couple weeks has been not good. Last night, Friday night, they played the Padres in the final 3-game series, and they lost in 15 innings in a completely meaningless baseball game. So let's look ahead now to the offseason. It's going to be a very, very complicated offseason for the Arizona Diamondbacks. So we thought the conversation would be an interesting one to have, which is, what is the direction of this team moving forward? Is it a rebuild? Is it a retool? Or is it just a one really bad month of the season cost them? They don't really need to change that much, and they can contend again next season if Mike Hazen makes a couple good changes. So, retool, rebuild, or they can contend for the playoffs next season if Mike Hazen makes a right couple of moves.
So, before I say anything else, I would like to point out the fact, and I've said this before, it was a horrible September. They fell apart completely, yes. But I would also like people to not freak out. I feel like the idea of a rebuild is not necessarily necessary here. They were in first place for most of this season. So the fact that they had a very good standing this season in their division I think is a big deal. However, the same token, the AL, like as a whole, was so much better than the NL as a whole. So I don't feel like the NL has been really competing at the same level that the AL has. So that I think is kind of concerning, because in the end, that's going up against AL is what's going to win you a World Series. But I think that it is a little bit overboard to think that we need to break everything down and completely rebuild. I think there's a great foundation here, and I think there's a lot of key things that are missing, and those key things that are missing are also causing a lot of controversy amongst each other on the team. It turned into them turning against each other, and it ended up being, the defense, the bullpen isn't doing well enough, and how are we supposed to get enough runs when the bullpen is giving up so many runs? And then it is, the bullpen saying, well, if the offense can't get this many runs, then what's the point of us even being able? It was very much one side against each other. You're on the same damn team. Get your shit together. That was one of the things that I thought was the most depressing and disappointing part of this team, was when they would bicker against each other. It doesn't fucking matter, okay? It really, in the end, you guys are one team and you have to work together. So that was one of the things that really irritated me. But in saying that, there is a huge problem with closing on this team. No matter which way you shape it, there can't be a bullpen like this, too, especially, that has no stones. Literally has zero stones. When they are put into situations that are do or die, they fold over, roll on their back, and play dead. It is so sad. And I think Archie Bradley is one of those people that can come in and have that ability, but I don't know what is going on with him, but he did not have that ability this season. It was horrible. He just rolled over, and he could not stand up in pressure situations. It was almost like him at the end of this season and him during the wild card game last season were two completely different people, and they don't even remotely know each other.
Yeah, that was probably there were a lot of issues on this team, I think, this year, more than people think. Bullpen being one, the offense being another. I think the offense got let off the hook, quite frankly, for most of the second half, because people put so much on the bullpen. Well, when your offense doesn't score any runs, when they only score 2 runs a game, your bullpen has to be perfect. They were scoring 6 runs a game, then the bullpen has a little bit of leeway, and they could give up a run or 2, and they could still win ball games. So it was just a combination of those two in September. And again, I looked this up last night. Paul Goldschmidt, last 2 weeks of the season, no RBIs, no home runs. There's your story. The last 2 weeks of the season, which in the middle of September they were still mathematically in the race. But when your best player completely shuts down like that in the final 2 weeks of the season, that is not good. But here is looking ahead to 2019 now, because I honestly at this point I just want to forget about 2018, because it just was a complete and total mess for really the entire second half of the season. But here is some of the free agents that the Diamondbacks have this offseason. Brad Ziegler, A.J. Pollock, Patrick Corbin, Eduardo Escobar, Jeff Mathis, Daniel Descalso, John Jay, Jake Diekman, and Randall Delgado. So those are the names, and honestly, I don't know if any of them are going to come back next season. Maybe John Jay. I think John Jay would be nice to have back next year, but other than that, maybe Brad Ziegler would be nice to have back next year. But again, Ziegler's he's getting up there in age, so maybe he decides to hang him up finally. But again, AJ Pollock and Patrick Corbin are not coming back next year. I just don't see any chance. I would love to have Patrick Corbin return to this team if the Diamondbacks, if he wanted to return, the Diamondbacks would get him for a decent price. But as we learned with JD Martinez last year, they're not willing to pull the trigger on that type of thing. So with those two players gone, and Patrick Corbin and AJ Pollock, two of your your top 5 players that you're counting on all season, to me that triggers a retool here. And that means that you're going to have to try and trade some pieces and say goodbye to people that we have fallen in love with, that you are necessarily going to miss when they're gone. And a couple of names I could just throw out there for possible trades. I want to see Zach Greinke gone. They got to find a way to get rid of that freaking contract of his. It's so bad. If they can just find one taker, and even if the Diamondbacks retain $10 million that salary, Zach Greinke's not going to be the same player he was this year. He's in the final 3 years of his contract as he gets older. Jake Lamb coming off an injury, if they could trade him.
I don't think he's coming off injury. That's my problem I have with that one, is who's going to look at him and be able to look back on the season. He spent most of his time being injured, and I don't think that they'll get much for him. Yeah,
but he also does have a track record in the past and during the 2017 season of being really good and being able to be if he stays healthy, a power hitter. So again, I honestly don't think they're going to trade Jake Lamb because they don't have any other third baseman. So that's where they're probably going to end up going. But the big name here is, what should they do with Paul Goldschmidt? And this is where Corey and I vehemently disagree with each other here about whether or not to trade Paul Goldschmidt. It's been reported in the media for the last couple of weeks. It's come up. Derek Hall commented on it recently and essentially said, did not say that they're not trading him in a way. Like, he didn't deny it. So to me, that's going to be the most interesting storyline because he does have a player option for next year, and then he becomes a free agent after 2019. So
to which he will be 32.
Yeah. So to trade Paul Goldschmidt or not to trade Paul Goldschmidt?
No. I think this is the stupidest idea. And I know people are going to rip on me for saying this is the stupidest idea. But really, you had a great team that fell apart and fans are pissed. So, let's fuel the fire by also trading Paul Goldschmidt. Come on. This is a market that is hard to be in as it is. It's funny because we've got a ton of people that live in this state and live in the metropolitan area. But the fact that no one is ever really dedicated to teams. I think the Cardinals, I feel like, is the only team that gets stable attendance. And I think part of it's their small season, but that's another topic. But I mean, the fact that you would piss off fans like that, I think is ridiculous. And I keep going back to the fact of Shane Doan. And he was here. He was the face of the team. And he was a big staple in Arizona. And he was one of the things that drew people to the Coyotes, right? Think about this last year of the Coyotes. They had a crappy season that ended up going, it was opposite. They had a crappy season that ended up going well at the very end. But people a lot of times don't even look at that because of the fact that they were in such a rebuilding form, and they still are for the next 5 years. They're rebuilding and trying to be something that is Stanley Cup worthy, but getting rid of that face of your team, they then spent another year going through 3 assistants with no captain, and now they are finally trying to pull OEL and slowly bring him up and make him a face of this team. I'm sitting here begging people to go to Coyotes games because I think that this team needs that support and is worthy of that support. What are the Diamondbacks going to do after a crappy season like this? And then they get rid of the face of the team that everyone loves and thinks is amazing. Well, what do you do in that situation? Because then people have also said, oh, Archie might be a good tool to trade. So the only other people that are kind of known on the team, like, or that are kind of well known on the team, Greinke, he's a possibility for a trade. Lamb, he's a possibility for a trade. And Archie.
David Peralta has become, he had a really good season this year. You could add him to that list too.
So at what point do you even, and I don't think any of them can become a Paul Goldschmidt. People come to games. One game I was at, this girl straight up painted her entire body head to toe in gold. Nothing is the same. For those of you who love Austin Powers. But no one is the same on this team as Goldie. And I feel like it will start making the team look desperate. Yeah,
and there's a lot of people out there that feel the same way. And it would be a really, really tough sale to this fan base, seeing that they were so close to making the playoffs this year. And they win 90 games this year. They have a little bit better. They win 5 games more in May, and they win 5 games more in September. Then this is a playoff team. So it would be a really, really tough sell. But I'd probably be in the category of trading him over keeping him, because it'd be essentially in the mirror of what Atlanta's doing, because they're really building something there with Acuna and Dansby Swanson. And then, of course, they had the pitcher.
I would like to point out we had Dansby Swanson.
Yeah, exactly. And Tuki Toussaint, who came up and made a couple good starts for Atlanta, another former Diamondback that we traded away.
I just would like to point out the fact that he was the 2015 number 1 pick, first round, that we traded away.
For Shelby Miller, who is...
nothing.
Yeah, it was garbage. So bad trade by Dave Stewart and Tony La Russa. But those teams are winning now, the Astros included in this, because they were able to build something. They were able to build something from their minor league system and into contending. And I think that's what the Diamondbacks have the ability to do now. Because I think over the last couple of years, Mike Hazen has been a general manager who has proven that this was a team that was built to win now. They were built to win in 2017 and 2018, and they didn't do it. And then when that happens, you got to make some changes. And those changes include trading a guy like Paul Goldschmidt, who you can get a lot for. And I mean a lot. You can get a haul for Paul Goldschmidt. He is a top 10 player in this league. He had an MVP-like season for most of this season. But here's my big caveat to it. I don't think they should go and actively shop him in the offseason.
Who needs a first baseman?
That's a tough question. But my counter to that would be
he'll also be 32. He'll be 32 and a first baseman.
Sure. There's a lot of people that would love a top 10 hitter in the league.
So
he is an improvement for most first basemen around the league. I think you could arguably say that. So again, don't actively shop him, but if you get offers, you have to listen. I think that would be a disservice to not listen to other teams and what they would offer Paul Goldschmidt. Because, again, he's going to be a free agent after 2019. What if he walks away? Remember that. What if he walks away? It would be tough for him to do, but if he walks away and you get nothing for him, then you have nothing to show for it.
Do you genuinely think, after spending his entire career here, that he would just walk away?
Yeah.
You don't think he has some attachment to this place and his whole life has been here?
I'm sure he does, but we have seen players in the past go and Paul Goldschmidt. I think Paul Goldschmidt is more like Larry Fitzgerald and Shane Doan than anything else. So it's a very small likelihood that he would up and leave as a free agent, but the possibility is there.
Also, something that we didn't mention, how much fault is on Torey Lovullo?
I think a fair amount too. I think he doesn't deserve to get away either, because he was making decisions that weren't working out. Like every button he pressed this year just didn't work out, and he deserves, a lot of negativity from the fan base and from the media. As someone who we put out a shirt last year, being the Freaks, that said #trust Torey. So it sucks for me to talk about him like that. But yeah, but again, he was the manager of the year last year. So not everything falls on top of him. When you have most of your bullpen just flat out not pitching well, he can't do anything about it. There was nobody in that bullpen he could go to and get an out. That's not his fault.
I do think a portion of it was bad luck on some of his decisions, because none of the decisions he was making were doing very good. But you also have to understand that none of his decisions were working out. Whether they were bad luck or not, maybe you needed to seek some outside advice that you hadn't gotten before, but something needs to change. You can't just keep going with insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. And that, I think, was what he got way too into a groove of. This is what he did, and he didn't really want to change it up very much until the team was at the point where there was no coming back from the hole that they dug themselves in. Right. They might as well just bury themselves, Right. So I just really think that part of this was on Torey, and Torey getting too used to the way that he was managing all the other games. His game time decisions, I don't think a lot of times it was before the game. It was during game time decisions when he made very poor decisions. Right. Yeah. There's a lot of offseason is going to be maybe the most interesting offseason the Diamondbacks have had in several years. So Mike Hazen and Torey Lovello and crew have a lot of work to do this offseason. But we've been yapping for a while now. Should we go to Dick of the Week now? Yes. What is your Richie's Dick of the Week? You as Dick yourself. I'm sorry. I just wanted to point out that, for those of you that just started watching the season, it's Dick of the Week because Richard, Dick, thank you. Just letting you all know. Because, I feel like we explained it in the first season, but we never explained it this season. So, in case you're new, he's Richard, a.k.a. Dick. His Dick of the Week. Thank you very much, Corey, for the introduction. As I turn the camera and not knock over my drink this week, because I have it right here in my hand this time, my trusty Mountain Dew. Mountain. Yeah. So this week's Dick of the Week goes to a college football team. Not Arizona State. Not the U of A. Not Stanford. Not Michigan or Northwestern. How dare you call them the U of A? They don't get to have the in front of them. They're just U of A. Down there in Tucson. Yeah, the team down south. Not USC, not any of those teams. It is the Ohio State Buckeyes, who continue to absolutely screw themselves. They've made several terrible, terrible mistakes. Of course, the top of which is Urban Meyer is still the coach of that football team. But that's another story. And I could go on for ages about Urban Meyer, but he's awful. But they made another awful decision this week when they posted to social media a poster basically advertising this weekend's game against Penn State, in which they have a player on the poster doing the one finger shushing motion, and there was one word on the poster. It said silence. Now, for those of you that have followed the Ohio State scandal over the past couple of months, you understand why that is just tone deaf as hell. It was Urban Meyer who kept silent about an assistant coach of his who beat the crap out of his wife for years and never told anybody about it and kept him on the staff until frickin' January of this year. And then you go and you say silence in a social media post? Ohio State, what in the freak are you freaking thinking? You are my Dick of the Week this week, Ohio State University. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Wait a second. Before we end this, I just heard about this. Wait, so they're playing Penn State, and they say silence. Yes. So the two worst teams to be in this. Okay. Exactly. Exactly. I'm sorry. I just heard about that right now. I don't know how I missed that, but I had to put my 2 little cents in there. That's hilarious. Yeah, that's another reason why they're my Dick of the Week. So once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us this week on Sporty with Corey and Richie Suave. We thank you once again. Good night and good sports, everybody.